Coach, what have you seen in the quarterback that's come in, Bryce Archie, that's helped take this offense to some new heights in the last couple of games?
Yeah, he's a really good football player. Uh, he's got great command of the offense. He's able to distribute the ball to his playmakers, extend plays in the pocket and out of the pocket. Really making good decisions. You can tell he's well coached. Obviously, I think the more and more he plays, the better he gets.
Is this one of the fastest teams you've seen on film? And does that pose extra problems, like with making the importance of communication and stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, the tempo is extraordinary. The way that they run it, they're great at it. We know that they're one of the best, if not the best, in college football at playing at pace. So that makes us, just everything gets sped up for us. Our entire process gets sped up. We got to practice that way, which obviously it's a nice deal to have the scout team set up the way that we do, so we can practice at the tempo that we need to see and run multiple huddles at our guys and be able to be prepared for it when Saturday rolls along.
Have you noticed the guys maybe the last couple of weeks playing? I think Coach described it as not to lose, instead of kind of letting it hang out to win.
I think at times we absolutely have done that, and we just need to make sure we get back to just cutting it loose and going to play ball. I think we've prepared really, really well the last 2 weeks and just haven't performed really well the last 2 weeks. So we obviously got to prepare well this week and then flip the script in terms of the performance.
But you like what you've seen in effort?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That has not been an issue. That has become, that's a mainstay around here. We talk about our effort, our attitude, our toughness, being elite at all times. Our effort has become something that I think we really hang our hat on. But to win at a high level, just playing hard isn't good enough. We've got to play with great fixation to detail and have a certain attitude and toughness when we go out on the football field that represents our style of play.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Scott.
Wags.
Can you kind of elaborate a little more about the pace that South Florida goes at? I guess this is an Alex Golesh thing going back to his days as an offensive coordinator at Central Florida and then Tennessee. But what makes what they do different than maybe what other teams that no huddle do?
Sure. Wags, they are well coached. They get to their spots on the field and get in formation quickly, and are able to snap the ball and execute quickly. And generally they're able to snap the ball, 12 seconds or less, which is really, really fast, off the play clock. So that's how they play. That's how they practice, I'm sure. That's their mantra. That's who they are. That's their identity. That's their style of play. And they do it really well. And yeah, he's obviously been doing this system for quite some time now.
So, I mean, it's probably hard for the scout team to mimic that. Do you ever, I know during this time of the year, you don't normally go good on good, but in this instance, would it be helpful to have the first line defense maybe try to mimic that a little bit? Because they're guys that are going to play faster anyway.
One of the things we're blessed with is we've got, a lot of guys on the football team, so we'll have basically 2+ scout teams that will be able to run plays back and forth at tempo. So literally as one play is the whistle's blown, the next scout team's out there running another play. And that helps us simulate the pace of play and the ability for us to get the call from the sideline, make any type of coverage adjustments, any type of front adjustments that we need to make, and go from there.
So with regard to that, I mean, you talk about, snapping the ball every 12 seconds. That doesn't give much time to have and do there. So they don't change personnel, obviously, right?
Not too much. There's a sprinkle of a couple different personnel groupings, depending on really what they're trying to do, what they're trying to accomplish, or potentially situation. So generally they'll stay with the same personnel grouping and try to work to go down the field in that personnel grouping.
Right. So you can't change defenders. So the question, how can you quickly assess what the formation they're in and get a call in time? It seems almost impossible in that amount of time frame.
Yeah, that's why they do it. It's a challenge. It certainly is, and you gotta work, you gotta study, you gotta have everybody on the same page. The guys got to understand what they're getting based off of the call and be able to process that information in a quick time frame. It just speeds up the process for everybody.
So, in terms of Coach Newberry had talked about they're taking what the defense gives them. Last year, Byram Brown threw for 320 some yards against the Navy, but then last week they ran for 300 plus yards. I mean, it seems as though they're equally adept at running or passing, depending on what they feel like they can get. Right?
Yeah, you're spot on. I think they're really well coached. They have really good players, and they're able to make adjustments and decisions as the game goes along based off of what they're seeing to be able to get their guys in good position. And that's the challenge defensively, is that they've got the ability to do a lot offensively. So there's a lot of things that you have to cover. There's a lot of things that you have to work at to be able to have success on game day against them. And it's a challenge. I mean, you've seen them. They've played a bunch of tight ball games. They've played a really hard schedule and had leads and opportunities to win basically all the games that they've been in. This is a really, really powerful offense and a good football team.
So obviously they had put up a lot of points and yards against you last season. Any lessons learned from that game a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, I think every game, you learn things. I was just we always rehash, last year's game, last year's approach, last year's schedule, and make adjustments to that based off of what we think we can be better at, to put our guys in position to be successful. But absolutely, there's always things to learn. There's always schedules to change and different ways to practice things to make sure that we get done what we need to get done and we're using our time effectively, and our guys really understand, what we're asking them to do based on each particular call and each particular situation.
Thanks.
Scott Wyckoff.
No problem. Thanks, Wes.
Coach, a lot of folks might not be familiar with the name, but what does Danny Payne mean to this team?
Yeah, Danny does an amazing job, obviously in our recruiting department, but runs our analytics as well, and obviously has a huge hand in a lot of the analytics and the game day operations that go with Coach Newberry and some of the decision making and the recommendations and things like that. So I know, he and his wife had their first child a couple of weeks ago, so he wasn't at a game, all that type of stuff. And I know that was it created a little bit of anxiety for Coach Newberry, and I know he's happy to have him back and have him by his side on game day. But Danny works his tail off, studies a lot of situational football, and understands the analytics side of things, and is able to provide information and recommendations based on the analytics that we receive weekly going into games. And then obviously he's got a huge hand in everything that we do in the recruiting department, which is an even bigger deal.
And what does it mean to have kind of a coordinator of recruiting who has such a knowledge of the service academy athlete, not only at Navy, but where he was involved in recruiting before?
Yeah, I think you don't quite understand what all this is until you're in it. And then once you're in it, you learn something new every day. So I think having someone that has service academy experience and obviously insight into another program as well is extremely beneficial. And Danny does an amazing job at really everything that we ask him to do. He works hard to make it his own and put his own fingerprints on really anything that we ask him to do. or really anything that he sees needs to be done.
Did you ever think you'd be taking analytics when you got into coaching?
No, I didn't. There's some wild and crazy conversations that come up about it. What if this happens? What if that happens? No, I was just, to be honest with you, when I started coaching, I also didn't think I would ever be putting together like a bench or lining a field and all that type of stuff. But you do that too. So, that the job's always changing. It's always adapting, and there's always new things. And that's part of the beauty of it that keeps you young.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Scott.
Wags.
So can you talk a little bit about what you saw out of the South Florida rushing game against Florida Atlantic? I mean, 3 guys up around 300 yards is pretty doggone impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they blocked really, really well up front. They got on people. They covered them up. They moved people out of gaps. I think they have 3 really explosive tailbacks. They probably even have more than that, but that's those are the guys that they were giving the rock to, and they're all explosive. I think they've got great patience and vision in the backfield, and then when they do see the hole, they're able to burst and get through there. And they provided, and along with the offensive line, the tight ends did a great job, creating seams. But I really think the tailbacks have great patience and vision and explosiveness that makes them a challenge in the run game, and they've got really, really good scheme. They find a weakness and exploit it.
Is it mostly zone blocking schemes?
No. I mean, there are some zone blocking schemes, that is a big piece of what they do, but they've got some gap schemes as well. And I think they're really good at both of them. They got big guys up front that can move and cover people up, and like I said, be able to create some space and some seams for 3 really talented running backs to explode through. So we know that we've got to make sure that we do a great job with our gap integrity. We got to do a great job with our vision, with our angles, and then obviously tackling. It's critical that we are great tacklers on Saturday, that we're where we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be there, and that we play the game the right way. We get all of our hats to the football that we possibly can, and we play great team run defense.
So based on the fact that that's their most recent performance, do you think they'll come out and try to run the ball, or establish the run on you initially? I mean, I know last year they threw for a lot of yards, but do you think, just based on the fact that they've suddenly have kind of set a tone for being a power running team, that they'll come out and try to do that?
I think every game is independent of itself. Obviously they're studying the film. They're looking at what they think they need to do to be successful, and whether it's run, whether it's pass, all those things. Our job as coaches and as players is to execute our job as best that we possibly can to eliminate all those things, and then make any adjustments that need to be necessary to make sure we're eliminating what they're trying to do as the game proceeds and moves along. And that's sort of the deal with us. But we've got to be great against the run, and we've got to be consistently great against the run. And that's the big thing for us defensively, is that we're striving for a consistent performance.
So lastly for me, I mean, with the situation with Bryce Archie's been playing well, but Byron Brown was the starter. And I think Coach Newberry said it was basically they held him out last week because they wanted to make sure he was 100% healthy before putting him out there. But do you have to consider that he may be the one that you line up against?
Absolutely. I mean, we got to prepare for both, just the same way that we did last week and the week before that and the week before that. You always got to prepare for potentially 2 quarterbacks. You never know the situation that occurs, so you're not surprised when somebody else is behind center. So I think that's something that's really important for us, is to understand our personnel, understand what they do well, and then you got to prepare for both.
Thanks, PJ.
Thanks, Wags. Appreciate it.
Anyone have anything else? All right. Thanks a lot, PJ. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Scott. Hey,
Yeah.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say we're all
Yeah.
really important, for everybody to understand that and take some time out of their day to have some thoughts and prayers for him and his family. And we just wish him nothing but the absolute best. It's a little difficult and a little weird being on these deals without him. And I know you guys know that even more than I do, but just love and appreciate him and all his hard work and everything he does. And just heart goes out to him and his family, and just wish him a speedy and healthy recovery.